Throughout Love You, Adam Sandler is trying to maintain control. He's late to his show, pestered by fans, the ventriloquist warming the crowd up sucks. Josh Safdie, who co-directed Sandler in the claustrophobic "Oh please God, will someone please open the door" Time Bomb Uncut Gems, continues the feeling of breath down your neck closeness. The camera shadows Sandler as he makes his way through grimy corridors towards the stage. His life a barrage of small assignments, people in his face, autographs to sign. Despite this, Sandler is amenable, a far cry from the temper tantrum man-child of Billy Madison. Instead, with baggy eyes and mismatching sweats, he looks more like a charity shop version of Gandalf the Grey. Even the title reads less like a declaration and more a hurried acknowledgement you make at the end of a phone call. Yet love is sincerely at the heart of this special, which shows Sandler's love of his art form propelling him forward. Love You continues Sandler's streak of working with some of the most acclaimed directors alive, after Paul Thomas Anderson helmed 2018's 100% Fresh. I wonder who's next. Maybe Noah Baumbach? I'll make no bones about it, I'm a massive 100% Fresh fan. Anderson's direction was dynamic, a multi-venue cross-cutting carousel that focused Sandler's comedic voice. Chris Rock's 2008 special Kill the Messenger did something similar, but with Fresh, each venue and performance felt different, from full polish in a belting stadium to grubby clubs with the material in its early stages. This wasn't Anderson simply cutting between venues, but shifting the tone and feel of the special moment to moment. The aspect ratio abruptly narrows into dramatic 16:9 when Sandler talks about being a delusional hero in perilous situations. Surreal Python-esque animations take over in UFC ears. Split-screen effects, the flash and fizzle of segues and montages. Anderson equally knew when to step back. In his tribute to Chris Farley, the special plays as a live recording, centering Sandler's performance. The end result is chaotic, fun, and really funny. It's a borderline masterpiece, one of the most successful stand-up experiments of the 2010s, and was a huge inspiration for myself when I made my venue-hopping special, Midnight Porridge. It's no wonder that Love You falls a little short. It's nicely shot in a single venue with lots of handheld camera angles. The feel of it is reminiscent of Aziz Ansari's Right Now. The color grade is uncommonly dark and grainy, an intentional choice, but not the cleanest. Outside the opening minutes, Safdie doesn't imprint his visual DNA on the special the way Anderson does. Instead, chaos comes from things going wrong on stage. Sandler's coffee is made with the wrong type of sweetener, his stage manager brings another, but Sandler places it next to the other, which results in a continual caffeinated coin toss. The monitors don't work, the piano falls through a hole, someone rudely heckles, and a chunky Labrador trundles out from backstage. Whether Sandler knows exactly what would be thrown at him is another question, but the interruptions added a staginess I liked but didn't love. Comedy is a live art form, and feeling things are really happening in the moment is key. This is what Fresh nailed. In one moment we see an early version of one of Sandler's shows where musician Dan Buller screws up the timing of a song. They both laugh, Sandler berates him, and you feel the dynamic between them.
Oh, cotton candy, making me randy, multicolored lolly. What the hell happened? No, you don't just start over, you apologize to me. You don't just do that to the Sandman.
They start the song again, at which point Sandler screws up and the whole thing captures the hilarious looseness of live comedy.
Multicolored lollipop, gobstop, I never stop, red tire, I fucked up, all right, sorry. Fuck that shit! The Sandman don't fuck up!
Well, from the top.
Having his cake and eating it, Anderson then cuts to a later performance where the song works as intended and we get a totally different laugh. This is the genius of Fresh. We get the giddy f***ing around of the rehearsal and the payoff of the finished song. You also see Sandler genuinely goofing around and you get a little insight into what he's like when things go wrong. It's childish and silly and I love it.
Well, from the top.
In Love You, because the interruptions are planned to a degree ahead of time, it feels a little more forced and a little less funny. Yeah, a dog running onto the stage is funny, but less so when Sandler knows it's coming. The audience seem unsure what to make of the whole thing. When Sandler berates the production manager for not getting the monitors working, it lacks the playful ribbing of his interaction with Buller. The audience clenches, unsure if Sandler is genuinely upset, and it falls into a weird middle ground between real and fake.
We'll probably have it good to go by then.
You promise?
I absolutely promise.
You know you fucking never said I'm sorry one fucking time.
It's a technical difficulty.
All right, fuckhead, you said that 10 times.
Of course, maybe that's the point, and this wouldn't matter if these interruptions paid off in an interesting way, but, they don't at all. The show's finale, where Sandler makes an ode to comedy, finds everything clicking into place. The monitors finally start working. It reaffirms the central idea: Sandler's love of comedy is the fuel that keeps the engine running. It's sweet, just not significant. I found myself wanting these interruptions to culminate in something bigger. The Safdie brothers are experts in building a bubbling undercurrent of anxiety. In Good Time and Uncut Gems, the tension builds throughout until you're nauseous from stress, then it pays off in unexpected and explosive ways. Yet in Love You, nothing really happens. It's Safdie sprinkles with none of the substance. The tension remains superficial, and in the end are simply a series of inconveniences that don't change the direction of the show. I'm not sure what we're supposed to think. Every time Sandler puts a coffee cup to his lips, are we supposed to grip our seats in tension? Is it supposed to make us feel anxious? It's unclear. Safdie designed the set to be the worst venue ever. If so, why not take a bigger swing? Perhaps if there was a complete power outage and the monitors crashed to the ground, leaving Sandler to profess his love for comedy in total darkness as sparks spit across the stage. Or Sandler's crew interrupt him so much that he goes into one of his trademark Happy Gilmore yelling fits. There was so much that could be done with the premise of the special, but in the end, it feels anticlimactic. If this sounds harsh, it is. I suppose with a director of Safdie's caliber, my expectations were pretty high and they fell a little short. Especially compared to Anderson's effort, which felt like a perfect integration of form and style.
Where'd you put the rake? I'm like, what? You put it on the nail? I think I did. You think? It's not there.
Then there's the material itself. Sandler remains refreshingly low-key. The best thing about Sandler is the total lack of agenda. There's zero political commentary, no attempts at smarmy smartness, no fight against wokeness. Norm Macdonald's presence lives on. The focus is on jokes, and Sandler retains Norm's superpower of making the punchlines feel accidental. He can do much more with a mumbled line or perplexed expression than many comics in a paragraph of punchlines.
Watching my whole family be like, and my father would be like, and my sister would be like, my father would be like,
In one of the special's high points, he reenacts a Western song as he describes muttering under his breath. It's delightfully low-tech. Sandler does his own whipping and whinnying sound effects like an 8-year-old pretending to be Indiana Jones, while flitting between various disgruntled monologues of a middle-aged dad.
every day I'm muttering under my breath.
Surrealist swerves and Looney Tunes ridiculousness keep things unique and charming. An airport routine is flipped on its head when he finds a bitching genie in a sports bag. An observation about not being allowed to release a balloon takes a mad turn when the balloon arrives at his house and starts coaxing Sandler into an affair. There's actually quite a lot of Stephen Wright in here, particularly a routine about receiving menacing letters from the 1-foot Charlie Mungo. I could easily imagine Charlie Mungo being said in Wright's croaky monotone. I came across a guy who was just a normal guy who was called Charlie Mungo. But Charlie Mungo was 1 foot tall. He didn't like me very much. He had a gun, but it was alright. I was wearing bulletproof socks. The biggest laughs I got from the special were the bleak right hook in the song Depressed, the absurdly strange yet propulsively melodic Mummy and Daddy, and the creepy love ballad Guy with a Drone. Innocence is a huge part of the appeal, even when Sandler goes full creeper mode, like when he observes Mummy hitting Daddy with his penis, with this really intense delivery. The imagery is so silly and flaccid that it feels like a 12-year-old's idea of what sex is like instead of anything actually graphic. I got that the wrong way around. My bad. Daddy hits Mummy with his penis, not...
And much to my surprise, right in front of my eyes, I see Daddy hitting Mommy with his penis.
I will say there aren't as many memorable bits. In Fresh, I can recall so many jokes and songs. You've got the rake and roller coaster jokes, Slow Man, UFC Ears, the Farley tribute, Bar Mitzvah Boy, the Amazon Books riff, the Perilous Guys song, the weird subway bits. Love You hasn't stuck in my brain the same way. This in part comes down to an overall lack of density. The smash and grab edit of Fresh meant Anderson could cram in way more jokes and funny moments. Just looking at the number of songs, Fresh had 28 while Love You drops to only 17, one of which is a 5-second callback. You can feel it. Love You has a slight bagginess. Jokes about spelling or watching porn without knowing the Bluetooth was connected are well worn, and Sandler's takes aren't inspired enough to really tickle. When Bert Kreischer is using the same premise, you know you've gone wrong. Some songs are a series of disconnected observations instead of being driven by a specific idea. This 4-minute funk tune moves from old guys with kids to ladies in yoga pants to a pug in a bumblebee costume. Sandler coasts on his personality and easy back and forth with the crowd, and it's heaps of fun to coast with him. But it can feel a little bit like the music starts when Sandler knows the jokes aren't strong enough to stand on their own. It also lacks a personal touch. In Fresh, Sandler's silliness was complemented by observations and stories that revealed things about himself. In one really memorable bit, Sandler talks about a fleeting but powerful romance he had with a fellow abandoned dad at a theme park. It's filled with the nervous emotion of a guy who doesn't want to admit his feelings. We get an insight into his marriage, and it's really specific in its details. The two of them staring into each other's eyes on the loop-de-loop is a visual image I've never forgotten. Even though it's ridiculous, you can tell it's coming from a real place. Compare this to a similar theme park based riff in Love You.
Greatest time of our kids' life. What a magical moment for me and my wife. Then I miss our exit and I scream fucking cunt. And it's like Disneyland never happened.
It's more generic and feels like anyone could have written it. There are moments in Love You where Sandler is in his comfort zone. He knows the jokes will work, but isn't putting as much of himself into the material. Rob Schneider, of course, returns, singing Elvis's Now or Never in suitable attire. It does beg the question, why? I know he's Rob Schneider, and I know he's got the perform in this thing, but it just doesn't make any sense in the context of the show, and it lacks the raunchy goofiness of Spaceship 69. It just feels lazy. Instead of writing an original song, let's just dress him as Elvis and get him to sing. Done. The special's final song, Comedy, finds Sandler paying tribute to his comedic heroes. Sandler sings of a lonely youth with no one around, wondering how he can ever be himself again. His savior, the thing that made everything alright, was comedy. It's almost cringe-inducingly sentimental. Maybe I've become too steeped in ironic distance to emotionally invest in a man professing his love for all of comedy, but I found this final ballad a tinge broad to tug on the heartstrings. What made his tribute to Chris Farley so powerful was how Sandler was able to pinpoint specific memories. Lyrics like "You'll end up like Belushi or Candy," or describing the first time he met him with plaid jacket and belt too tight. It feels like it's coming from a very personal place, especially accompanied by that echoing, sorrowful guitar solo. In Comedy, Sandler drifts towards the universal. Yes, he talks about himself as a youngster, but it soon moves on to broad generalizations, like when your boyfriend dumps you through a text on the phone, or holding someone's hand through the doctor's bad news. It also feels like Sandler is moving through an encyclopedia of comedy's greatest hits instead of lasering in on the comedians who meant the most to him. Sandler is trying to hit that personal note, and I've no doubt that the song comes from a personal place, but it just didn't quite hit for me. It's an uneven special that lacks the delirious highs of his previous efforts. It's still funny, and Sandler's easy stage presence, casual observations, and surreal leanings warrant a watch. If 100% Fresh is a 9.2, Love You feels like a 7. It's good, but fuck, it could have been great.
Bitch ball, why didn't you just go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me! Suck my white ass ball!